and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm Michelle Albers, your co-host. Today we have a brand new special guest. I'm ridiculously excited. Before I introduce him, I want to set an intention for today because sometimes I get so excited I forget to do that. I don't in my daily practice, but when I do this podcast, I tend to. And my intention for today is to connect with a new person that I don't know very well, but I would like to get to know his heart, his soul, you might even say his light, that to be fully present so that I can engage in that way. That is my intention for today. So today we have Josh Aronovitch here with us today. This is literally, hi, Josh.
Hello.
This is literally the first time we're having any sort of an in-depth conversation. Like we've met in passing, we've had quick little hellos. But so like this is like almost like live on this podcast. You're getting to witness us getting to know each other, which is kind of fun. Can we start with a blanket, like tell us just a smidgy about yourself and then we'll get to know more about each other as we go on. But I want
Yeah.
you to give the listeners a little snapshot of you.
So I am a recovering lawyer. I
Ah,
left law practice in 2008. Um, I liked it, I didn't love it, and I really had no idea what was next. So I did some soul searching and I did some thinking. I realized the happiest I'd ever been working wise was when I was paying my way through law school teaching LSAT classes. So I
oh.
called up my old boss, Ari, and I said, "Hey, Ari, can I license your Testwell LSAT brand and teach your stuff in South Jersey and Philly?" No. Like, no. What do you mean, no? I'm not used to people saying no, especially not when it's important. And he said he's sorry, that he wishes he could say yes, but he can't even teach his stuff outside of Boston and New York. He gave these other guys from Chicago the right of first refusal, and they were sitting on it. I said, "Oh, well, back to the drawing board." I didn't want to do LSAT coaching because I didn't want to accidentally steal his stuff. It had only been 5 years since I was teaching for him 30 to 60 hours a week. And I thought about it. I thought SATs. So I read every book on the market. I took every practice test. I created my own strategies and approaches to mastering the SAT. Started with 3 kids around my 12th grade health teacher's dining room table. And since then, it expanded that to over 1,900 clients in 19 states and 6 countries. And have expanded from SAT coaching to any kind of standardized test prep to college and grad school admissions coaching to what I call path, purpose, and passion coaching, where I help people figure out not just what they want to do, but more importantly, who they want to be in life. And
Mm.
really anything that helps teens, 20 somethings, and the young at heart intentionally grow into that next level of themselves, into stronger learners and leaders. And I love it so much more than I did law practice. So that's sort of what I do as a way of explaining who I am. Because
That's
who I
amazing.
am is a visionary for whom radical honesty, radical kindness, and growth are three of my core values. And helping others to see not just who they are, but who they're capable of becoming, and helping them to take the first steps into that intentional growth is why I absolutely love what I do.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful. And to be fair, my voice is still not super great. And one of the reasons I was like, oh, I'm really excited, even more so now to talk to this man, is because the other day you used my language. You use words that like resonate with my heart. You're like, ooh, work on that throat chakra. And I was totally giggling because first of all,
Absolutely.
my throat chakra is one of mine. Like it is like I call it my weak spot, but I need to stop calling it my weak spot, right? It's my healing spot.
Yeah.
But it is the thing for me that tends to get it just gets frazzled when I'm depleted or when I'm stressed out or even if I could just get sick, which is my immune system compromised, which means I'm depleted or stressed out. That's just how it works.
Because it's,
So
yeah, I
it's
think it's inaccurate to call it a weak spot because it's something that you use so powerfully and so beautifully. But I
yeah,
think because you use it and because you rely on it, it is intensely frustrating when it's not quite
a
there for you.
100%. And
So
I think
it's
I call it my weak spot because it is part of an old story. And that is like I have a childhood trauma where I couldn't find my voice around that trauma for a really long time. Like it was literally stuck. So when I say it's a weak spot, it's like it was a weak spot. And it's
right.
not now it's my power place. And so
But
you're
how
right.
true is it that all too often we stay trapped in our old stories and that
100%.
limits our growth and our impact?
Yeah. And so this growth and impact and like you talking about how you work with kids specifically, right? And empowering them to find them. I'm curious if because you practice yoga, is that correct?
I do. So
And
it's a funny story behind that.
yeah, I'm
I
curious about it.
Yes, so my yoga journey began on February 1st, but it
This last
really
year?
yes, this year.
Oh, dude, this is amazing.
And it actually technically began January 31st because I'm on the board of directors of our local Chamber of Commerce. And every year we host the Best of Washington Township. And so I was there with two hats on as one of the board members, but also I was being honored as Best of Washington Township for standardized test prep, tutoring, and life coaching. And was there. It was an amazing event. We had 505 people this year, but there was one glitch in the matrix. Two of the plaques got stuck together. So one of our attendees or awardees never got called up. But because it's just they're called up in the order of the plaques, no one knew they weren't called up until the confetti gun went off at the end. And oh crap, and it was Laughing Buddha Hot Yoga. And it just so happened that they had two tables with 20 people there. A bunch of their teachers were there, and their owner was very gracious. Some of the teachers were steamed.
Yeah.
So uh, we apologized. We posted on social media owning the mistake, encouraging everyone to try them out. The next day, to try and make things right, four of our board members, we showed up with newly printed and framed plaques with flowers, balloons, apologies at the studio at 5:30. And I decided to get their $40 for 40 days package into a package and stay for my first class at 6, which was with the owner of the studio. It was 4 rows of 15, mat to mat to mat. The place was packed.
Oh my gosh.
And it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done physically.
Mm.
Um, Considering, I mean, I lift heavy at the gym 4 days a week with my brother. We meet at 5:45, but I pretty much hadn't done cardio in 30 years. So a hot vinyasa flow was
Oh my
definitely out of my
gosh.
comfort,
Yeah.
but I absolutely loved it. And in my first 29 days, I did 36 sessions between vinyasa, Bikram, a couple yin, and a beautiful yoga nidra. And ended up the first day I missed was because I was traveling up to the Catskills to go to a yoga and meditation retreat at Menlo with the owner of the studio and about 26 other people. So I've loved it. I had a 12-day trip where I went to Texas and Tennessee. But other than that, I've only missed a handful of days since I started February 1st. And it is
Oh my gosh.
absolutely beautiful. I love that I'm learning two things that are seemingly paradoxical, but not. Learning when to push, but also learning when not to push.
When to push and when to
And
pause.
yeah, and learning to take that child's pose, even though child's pose is definitely a challenging pose, not just a rest pose for me because of my IT bands and my lower body, but taking that rest and knowing how to listen to my body at a deeper level than I ever have before. And realizing that yoga is not just what I do on the mat, it's every time I remember to refocus on my breath. It's every time I set that intention to just be fully present in the moment and to know that the past it cannot be changed and the future will take care of itself if I put my attention and my intention and my focus into that moment, into that person that I'm interacting with, that I can give so much more and that I can truly listen, not just with my ears, but with my whole soul. And I
Yeah.
think for so many people, that biggest unmet need is to really be listened to truly be seen. And many people go through their lives without experiencing that at all. And that's what I do, just sort of in my life and my career, is to be fully present and give folks that gift of being truly seen and truly listened to.
That's amazing. And the fact that you've only been doing yoga for 2 months, it feels like you've been living your yoga your whole life. Like when we
In many ways,
when we
yes.
engage, when we speak, I'm just like, oh, a lot of people maybe don't even know this about me, but I took 500-hour yoga teacher training I graduated in 2016. I don't consider myself a yoga teacher because I don't teach asana practice, but I am a yogini through and through. I live my yoga. I found me.
I mean, the asanas are just an excuse. They're just an excuse
You can learn a lot. You
for
can learn a
mindset
lot.
and breath. Yeah. I mean,
You
just
can,
like when I teach SATs, it's not about the SATs. That's just an
no.
excuse to teach people how to learn in a way that
Yeah.
how they learn
And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
and just how to show up in a test in a way where they're they're in charge of the flow. They're not being captured by their anxieties, and they're seeing it
Yeah.
as an opportunity to express their mastery, not as a frustrating or obstacle, but as an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think, the physical practice of yoga, the asana part, when done mindfully and aware and intentionally, you can move a lot of stuff in that. Like it's
Mhm.
amazing what
It's
can
all connected.
happen.
It is
It's all
all connected.
connected. Everything is connected. It like Thai massage opened the door for me into the community
Mhm.
that I was meant to go into, and I learned a lot different than what I learned in my yoga practice. But the yoga practice for me, that yoga teacher training, which I knew I may or may not teach, I teach restorative yoga and meditation and those sort of things. But I'm all about like we are a go, go, go society. I'm all about the like, let's slow, slow, slow and just freaking listen. Like you talked about people wanting to be seen. You know what really wants to be seen? Our bodies want us to see our own
Mhm.
bodies because it's telling us things left and right. And
Yes.
we're just not even, we're clueless. We're not listening. Not everybody, that's not a fair blanket statement, but so many of us don't. And sometimes when it pipes up, it tells us those things that are like terrifying, like, oh, I don't really want to look at that thing. And I think sometimes like whether it be through massage or movement, like, we put our emotions in our tissues and they can get stuck there. They can get stranded there. And when we move that in some way or another, the healing that can happen is so profound. And it's like that's layered for me, right? Whether I get there through Thai massage or energy work or Reiki or, yoga or even just a great conversation with a great human. It's amazing what we can move when we just surrender and get rid of some of those attachments that we're hanging on to so tight because I mean, I grew up that way. That's how I was before I found yoga, was holding on tight in as much control as I could possibly have because that's the only
But
way I feel safe.
the paradox is that when we hold on so tightly, we actually lose control.
Right.
And the
It's
beauty is to use a yoga term that I just love, the idea of the counterpose. That when you
Mhm.
do something that's intense that stretches you, you've got to go the other direction in order to restore that harmony and alignment. And the counterpose to doing is being. And I think so many of us don't allow for enough space in our lives to just be.
Yeah.
And it's such a gift to give us ourselves that space. I only have jokingly say that if I didn't go to law school, I might have gone to massage school because massage is something that is definitely a huge source of joy in my life, both giving and receiving.
Yeah.
I do a 2 hour deep tissue once a week on average. And it's just that some of the most meditative experience that I have,
Oh
that
my
just
gosh.
being fully present in your body and experiencing each sensation for what it is and not trying to categorize it because so many times things that are sort of is that painful. I mean, there's good pain and there's not so good pain, but at the same time, it's just honoring your body where it is and
Yeah.
feeling the connectedness of everything.
I
And
love that.
it's all energy and it's all energy that gets caught up because we don't have that right push pull between being and doing.
Yeah, I'm totally flashbacking to my yoga teacher training. We had to do test outs, and one of the girls in her class, at the very end of it, she said, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do, and there's no one to be." And it's like now over time, when I reflect on that, there's no one to be. I think about all the different times in my life that I showed up trying to be someone that wasn't me just to
Mhm.
fit in or be accepted or be loved. And it's like
Why?
there's
Yeah.
no one to be other than me. Like I just get to
Yeah,
be.
there is no finish. The finish line is awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
Exactly.
just in Shavasana, in that final rest pose, it's not just about physically letting go, it's about mentally letting go. It's
Yeah.
about spiritually letting go. It's about realizing that everything we need to be, we already are,
Yeah.
and giving ourselves permission just to be fully ourselves
And
is so
Shavasana
powerful, so important.
is one of the hardest poses for people. And I'll say this, if you're a person who tries to meditate and it's not working for you, try a little movement first. Our brain needs that like like
Walking meditation and just swimming laps is
yeah.
some of the best meditation because you get into that flow, you get into that motion,
Oh, and in
and
the
you
water.
just in the water. Yeah, water is my happy place.
Oh, water is
Every
amazing.
year I try to get my parents to open up the swimming pool earlier,
Yeah.
so I can swim regularly. It's gonna be May
Yeah.
6th this year, and I can't wait. But yeah, water is just is magic.
I mean, nature in general, but water has this like, if you just think about what it represents, I mean, the
Mm,
flow of life, right? The just the movement that comes with water. I go right to the second chakra, like
mhm,
that being in
mhm.
that creative flow, being in the flow, like going with the current instead of trying to make everything upstream, you know? It's like,
It's so funny that you mentioned that because I was about to say that you mentioned the word surrender earlier, and surrender is a concept that I've long struggled with because I am many things, but passive has never been one of them.
yeah, yeah.
So surrender, I always thought meant being passive, but it doesn't.
No.
Surrender just means swimming with the current instead of against it. You're still being intentional. You're still swimming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so many words, right? Surrender, balance. Like there's so many words that can be like triggering for people almost. It's like, yeah, I get it, but it depends on your definition. And I think
Right?
that the definition of how we're using these words makes a huge
Oh, it
difference.
does.
It's so
That's why
much
it's so
difference.
important to actually talk about our definitions. I mean,
Yes,
in so many ways, the fact that we can use the same word and even mean remotely the same thing is such a freaking miracle.
it really
That the
is.
idea that human minds that are so diverse and so interesting and so unique and so individual can actually have a shared language at all is
Right.
beautiful and magical. And but at the same time, we can't take that for granted. We need to explore and interrogate those definitions so we can be sure we actually are on the same page and talking about the same thing.
Yes,
Now, when
and
people
I
say, "Oh, it's just semantics," what do you mean just?
right.
Semantics is the meaning of words. What could be more important than that?
I think one of the biggest gifts that I've found in my life is actually learning energy work because
Mm,
so much of like when I'm in conversation or when I'm in a room, I'm not just listening to the words.
oh
I'm
no.
picking up the energy. I'm like feeling how you feel, like what your frequency is. Like there's just so much, I don't know. And I just find it's interesting because as my energy changed and shifted as I was doing my own deep inner work and healing and getting less stuck because I was super stuck. I mean, I just was. That's how I showed up, very stuck and rigid. And now I'm just like I'm so not that anymore.
Oh
I
no,
think, oh, it was such a hard
you're
life.
in your flow now, which is really
Yeah.
fascinating.
And to just feel like I mean, there were people who left my life because I didn't feel good to them anymore. And in the beginning, that was a really hard concept for me to understand. And the further along the journey I get, the more I understand, like, oh, space was being created for new energy to come in. And
Yeah.
it's been
It's
a
interesting.
fascinating and amazing.
I've never been trained in energy work, but it's something that I just feel naturally in
Yeah.
tune with. And
Yeah.
I definitely have drawn in a lot of people to my life that are very attuned, and they've sort of helped serve as catalysts in my own increasing abilities in that regard.
Yeah. And I think the more we listen to our body, the like we're honing a muscle that we didn't know we had, you know? Like I didn't when I first started Thai massage, I've always liked massage, like back rubs, find the knot, get it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when I was in Thai massage, like the physical part, finding those physical knots was super easy for me. The energy part was super hard for me. And then it was, I'd watch my teacher and she'd be like outside the body, like feeling in their aura and talking about like things. And I'd just be like, yeah, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. And now I'm like,
I
oh,
mean, it
you have
was
a
literally like
headache?
speaking a foreign language.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, you have a headache? Can I explore it? And then like feel around their head, find the spot and like work it away. And they're like, what just happened? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not claiming that I did that. I'm just saying energy moves and you
Yeah.
set the intention to release it. And I set the intention to use my Reiki and the energy that I've been trained in. And we might be able to, I'm not promising that we can heal a headache. I'm just saying like you can feel energetically where it's coming from when
Yeah.
you are tuned in. It's so cool.
Yeah. And so often too, headaches or other ailments have multiple components to it. There's an
Oh,
energetic component, there's a physical component, there's an emotional component, and sort
yeah.
of unwinding those and realizing where they sort of reinforce and exacerbate each other is interesting.
That's the other thing I found like through yoga and Thai massage specifically. We think we know. We think we know where our pain points are coming from, but we don't pause to ask, more questions or to get playful and creative in finding it. Because
Yeah.
the number of times people would come in for a Thai massage and say their lower back hurt, the first place I would go is inner thigh. It's all
Yeah.
connected. And
Right.
their inner thighs will
And
just
often if your knee hurts, it's because your hip flexors are tight
yes,
and you're overcompensating. So
yes,
it's like, but that's so true, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. The
100%.
thing that we think is bothering us is often something that we've created ourselves in armoring another area that is
Yeah,
where the
cover up.
true hurt is. Yeah. So it's almost like Simon Sinek talks about sort of asking why 7 times, but it's sort
Yep.
of asking for the deeper cause behind the deeper cause.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we resist it because we're truly not ready, and that's okay. And sometimes we resist it because we're stubborn, you know, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
But I find
I
it
definitely have a
fascinating.
stubborn side, but it's something that I'm actively working on just to try to approach it in a playful sense of what if I'm wrong? How interesting would that be?
That is my go-to like reminder to myself is that like I could literally be wrong about absolutely everything I know because it's been true before. I was convinced of so many things that turned out to be false. And so now I'm like, I could be wrong about everything. I'm not claiming anything as an absolute,
Mhm.
but I am
Sure.
going to show up congruent with who I am and aligned with what feels true to me in the now. And that's how I'm going to present myself in the world. And you
I
can take
like
it or leave
I
it.
like to stay rock solid in my values and my convictions,
Yeah.
but hold lightly to my beliefs.
Yeah. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Ultimately, I'm an empiricist. I like evidence. I like
Yes.
seeing what happens if, and realizing that my experience is actually only a small sample size. So just because it's true for me in this situation doesn't mean it's even true for me universally, let alone true for anybody else. I think too many people try to project their own experiences onto others. And you see
Oh
that
yeah.
so much in the coaching space where people think, oh, because I did it this way, everybody else should do it this way. No, it's not just about you. It's not just, and your story can be powerful and can be healing and can help people, but
Yeah.
it's really about being able to see people for who they are and helping them adapt the tools that you've learned to use in a way that works for their own unique journey.
It's so funny. I teach Reiki classes as well, right? And one of the things that is like the most challenging is for brand new students when I tell them, like, look, we're going to learn the foundation, and that's great. Be in the foundation. There's nothing wrong with being the foundation. But when you make it your practice, not the one
Mhm.
that you learned from me, that I learned
Right.
from all my teachers, like I have like 4 or 5 different teachers that I've blended into my own practice, right? Because I took this from several people, but they don't want to explore it on their own because they haven't built the confidence in the foundation yet. And so it's
Mhm.
getting them to like really understand that like you get to be strong in your foundation and then you get to play and explore, and there's not a wrong way when your intentions are congruent with who you are, and
Yeah.
when you're coming from the best and highest good, you cannot do it wrong.
Exactly. It's just when it's from a foundation of empathy and consent, just play with the energy and see what happens and
Yeah.
let it grow. It's
I never realized
people
how
are
connected.
so afraid of making mistakes
Yes.
and
Yes.
doing it wrong in every aspect of life. But so what if you do it wrong? You
Yeah.
learn
Oh,
from it, you grow from it.
there's so much value in doing it wrong. You learn so much. I never realized how much confidence was connected to being willing to explore and play. I really never had connected
Yeah.
those dots until I found mine. And then it's
That's
like,
the biggest gift we can give our children and our students
yeah.
is that belief that they're gonna be okay even if they mess up.
Yeah,
That messing up is not the end of the story, it's just the beginning. And
exactly.
giving them the freedom that no matter how it turns out, they're gonna be all right
Yeah.
is so freeing.
That's my biggest sort of phrase right now that I think of when helping myself or other people is when you can build your self-trust, like when you trust yourself, no matter what happens, you know you'll find a way to figure it out. And I don't mean alone. You have people in your world, you have connections, you have phone numbers, you can look it up, you
Exactly.
can find
And
a
if you
you can
don't,
find
you
a
can create
pro.
them and draw them in.
Yeah, exactly. But it starts with you. You have to have
Live
the
in an
courage to
era
reach.
when resources are unlimited.
Exactly. Yeah, and having that
It's those who
self-trust.
aren't even willing to ask for help to ask the question.
Right.
Um, People that get the most and then are able to give the most are the ones that actually ask for the things that nobody else asks for.
Right. And
What's the worst thing
preemptively
to
ask.
say
Like
no? Yeah.
you don't have to be like at the end of the rope to ask.
Well, no, I'm not going to ask then because I'm going to ask when things are going great. Okay, who can I draw in to help make it even better?
Yeah.
It's just that
Exactly.
continual growth. It's the biggest epiphany for me in the last 2 years, and the biggest things that's shifted my energy is to recognize that joy and peace are my default state, are not something that I need anything from anyone or to achieve anything to get to. And then I bring that joy and peace to each new experience, to each new situation. And then that just amplifies and magnifies it and lets me spread it.
Well, that's just it. I was just, you said lets me spread it. That's it. Like when you're in that state, that ripples out. And people like I have a friend who we hung out a while ago and she was like, most people drain me and you don't drain me. And I was like, I think because we just show up and we're real together. Like neither one of us are energy vampires for the other person, right? Like we're just showing up and we're in joy, we're in playfulness, we're in peace. And it's like it's so amazing.
A lot of people that think they're introverts actually, I mean, obviously some people are introverts, but some that think they're introverts are actually just really strong empaths and they're around the wrong people
Yeah.
because they do get energy from other people, but they also lose it to other people.
Yes. And yeah, and we could get on a whole I have a friend who does human design and she talks about like the people who are like who need energy from the people who generate the energy and like that dance that happens. It's just
Yeah,
like
I only know barely enough to be dangerous when it comes to human
yeah,
design, but
me too. I'm not claiming I know
I'm
nothing.
very much a manifesting generator.
Yeah, and I'm a generator.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's but it's fascinating. And we so it was actually the person I was at the Movement Maker Live with that does the human design stuff. And we were talking about it there because I was not prepared for that much energy in one room. I'm an empath. I not but I also know how to protect my energy. And
Right,
I
sure.
thought
You
I
have,
had
you
like
have to shield.
prepared. Yeah, I thought I prepared myself like I was good. And then I got in that room and I was like, oh, I forget how powerful these people are and how much
Yes.
energy they have. I was like, dang, I'm like vibrating so
Yeah.
fast and high. I can't even like ground. It's crazy. And I'm good at grounding. So it was like this, it was this weird, I was like, oh, cool. That means I'm in a room full of really cool
Now, who
people.
did you go with?
So her name is Spoons. I call her
Oh,
Spoons.
yeah, Spoons. Yeah, I met her.
Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, I won't forget your name.
Yep. Very cool.
So I don't know. This feels like a good place to wrap it up. Where can people find you?
So they can find me on Facebook, Josh Aronovitch. They can find me on Instagram at Josh the SAT guy.
I love it.
Uh, they can find me at my business website, which was actually just redone by a good friend, Melissa Cleek. That's aronovitchcoaching.com. And reach out. My advice is if anyone listening to this just felt a pull to listen to those whispers from the universe, and especially if anyone has a teen or 20 something, would be glad to talk about how I can help them grow into that best version of themselves. But
Beautiful.
before we finish,
Yeah.
I was sort of checking out your Facebook page after we talked yesterday.
Yeah.
Tell me about this Thailand retreat that you're doing.
Oh my goodness. So Thailand is my home away from home. And in 2020, Dan, my partner and I were going to take a group and then that didn't happen clearly. That all got shut down. And so like it's finally time. I get to bring people to my home away from home and introduce them to my family over there. And Chiang Mai is this we talked about vibration and energy. I have it just feels good there. There's a and there's a next level of healing. Whether you're going there for healing or not, there is a next level healing that happens when we travel that far away from home because you will reveal things about yourself that you didn't realize were there. And just everything about it, dropping into that culture. I've never seen such kind and happy eyes as I have in the mountains of Thailand. I don't even know how to explain it. I was like, look at everyone around here. They are like glowing from the inside out. It's amazing. But the food is fantastic. We have a super cool, special, like fancy, not fancy, just really exciting dinner planned with a Michelin star, two-time James Beard Award winning chef. We have the Elephant Nature Park, which is like this amazing experience where you don't ride the elephants, you help. I mean, these elephants have been rescued from pain.
Right.
And so we get to go spend time with the elephants and then just markets and more food. And I never know exactly where our hosts are going to go. And the here's the thing. We move fast here. And when you get to Chiang Mai, you can try and move fast if you want to. We call it Thai time. Dan and I call it Thai time. You just get to, and on some level, perhaps are required to just take a pause and chill out. It's amazing. I light up from the inside when I talk about it. I haven't been there. I always told myself I went there the first time in 2012 and I said I'm going to go every other year, every 2 years at the most. And I haven't been there since 2018. And my soul is aching for Thailand. But sharing it with other people, like we already have a great group coming. We have room for a few more. And I cannot wait to experience people experiencing it for the first time. There's
Yeah.
something about that that is
There's
magical.
something about Thailand that has been calling to me for a long time.
Oh, join
It
us.
is definitely one of the places that I most want to visit. And one of my goals in life is before my time is up, I do want to visit every country on earth.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been accelerating that a bit in the last few years.
That's
And
amazing.
it's definitely tempting.
And so here's the other cool thing, which, and you know how you talk to people and you think certain things are going to happen, but then you get like this, wait, we can do that too. My host reached out to me and she's like, if you can get there before the 15th, that would be amazing because it's Loy Krathong, which is the Lantern Festival, which where
Mm.
they honor the rainy season. They honor Buddha for the rain to nurture their fields so that they can eat and nourish themselves. Right. And she goes, we want to bring you into the family, like your whole group into the family. And we want you to join our traditional practices where I think she's like, we have banana leaves and maybe I'm spoiler alert here. Spoiler alert. If you're coming, stop listening. But they
I
have a
like spoilers.
garden. They have a garden with banana trees. And so she's like, we'll take leaves from our garden and we'll make banana leaf boats and we'll send them down the river as a blessing. And I cannot wait. I'm like, I don't think I've ever actually been there on Loy Krathong. And I don't know. It's amazing. I love they are so respectful and they have so much appreciation and honor for life and like the blessings within that. And I don't know. Every time I'm there, I find myself like I think I'm a grateful human anyway. And then I get there and it just gets amplified and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's
one of
so
the things I
cool.
like to do when I'm sitting in the sauna in the morning is I call it the gratitude game. And I'll
Yeah,
just go through the alphabet and I'll list a bunch of things for each letter that I'm grateful for.
that's amazing.
It's
It's so
fun.
good. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to be anything but joyful when you're in that true, like at soul level gratitude, right? Like I just get so happy.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that with that happiness, we have a responsibility to hold space and honor those who aren't happy because
100%.
it is a lot of pain and a lot of problems in the world. And
Yeah.
part of being grateful and joyful means not shrinking from those things, but facing them with
Yeah.
empathy. Like the stronger and more solid we are, the more we have a moral obligation to stare in the abyss and try to help people out from it.
Right. Well, and that's like so this trip I suspect, I was gonna say no, I suspect that people will have some deep healings. I mean, I have my Thai massage masters and the singing bowl master like that I can connect people with. And whether they choose to go there or not, I suspect some people are gonna have some big releases. And I'm capable of holding space for that because it's what I do here too. So, and I have great connections over there. So I know that no matter what experiences the people have on the trip, they will be supported, they will be honored, there will be a great community of people that can hold space for wherever this journey takes them. And I have some cool things, ideas of, she's like, oh, did you know we have a rooftop? I'm like, wait, what? She's like, you can use the rooftop. And I'm like, I know what I'm doing up there. So
Stop yoga.
we're going to have some good healing sessions just within our group too. So I don't know, optional. I mean, you don't have to go there if you don't want to, but I know some people will definitely go there. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting for me, sort of being in this space, the sort of coaching and speakers kind of spaces, is I felt at first just this huge imposter syndrome
Mm,
that speaker after speaker had these incredible traumas that they turn into transformation, the pain that they turn into purpose. And I have, knock on wood, lived sort of a charmed kind of life. I mean, I grew up loved by middle class parents. I had the support that I need. I never really wanted for anything. I've always had physical and emotional safety as my starting point. And I recognize how rare that is.
yeah.
But I've come to the realization that I don't need pain to drive me forward. I
No.
don't need to have hunger created from lack. That instead I can be grateful for my blessings and increase my capacity to hold space and use the pain of the world as the thing that drives me forward. Because it's ultimately not about me. It's about how I can use my gifts to help continue the work of creation and leave this place better than I found it. And
Yeah,
that's ultimately why we're here.
exactly. That's it. Like, that's it. That's amazing. I think it's funny, not funny, interesting. We all have our own journeys and our own stories, and it's not like everyone has some sort of hardship, right? But I have some clients who are like, I don't have like that kind of trauma or that kind of pain. And I'm like, you don't have to have that kind, whatever that means,
Right.
of trauma
Yeah,
or
it's not a
pain.
competition.
Yeah, but you don't have to have that. Like, you're feeling stuck right now. Like, that in and of itself is a pain point for you. So like, let's uncover like what it is. Where's the boulder there? Like, let's find that. And it
Right.
doesn't, I think people have this like idea that it has to be like we're going to uncover some thing that's going to break you down and put you as a puddle on the floor. It's like, well,
Right.
maybe, but that doesn't have to be the journey. It can
But also
simply be this
recognizing
pattern.
that being still doesn't mean being stuck,
100%.
and that you can be growing even when you're not moving. And that sometimes that
Yeah.
invisible growth is what lays the foundation and the framework for the growth that people are yearning for and looking for.
And I think people who can pause and be comfortable there have done a shit ton of work. They just have. Because the pause is really uncomfortable if you haven't.
Or maybe they've done a shit ton of play.
For sure. Well, I think that,
Sometimes,
I mean, to
depending
me,
on how
that,
we look at it, it's
yeah.
play and work.
Yeah. And I think, I would put those in the same category. It just like do your definition of the word. Like, I think play is work. I think being inquisitive is work. I think being creative is work. But to me, work doesn't have a negative connotation. It has a really
Sure.
positive
Yeah, but
one.
for many it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of doing the work is a good thing. But for
Yeah. And
others,
building
work is
muscle.
what you have to do. Work
Right.
is what you need to do to eat, as
Right.
opposed to what you get to do because it's fun and playful.
Yeah, to me, when I say work, I'm using it as, at least in this context, so like I'm talking souls work, which is nothing that brings
Yes.
you
Which
joy.
is purpose and joy.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
so different from what most people think when they hear the word work.
Right. This is just a little tangent, but when my oldest boy was like 3 or 4, we were driving and he was like thinking out loud, right? And he was in the back seat and he was before school. He's like, he hadn't started school yet. He goes, homework, homework. There's something about that word that I don't think I'm gonna like. I was like, oh, I hope it's the work part, not the home part. That's
That's
so
fun.
funny. Oh, that's amazing. This was like a great conversation. Thank you for joining us today. You can find us on all the channels that are listed in the description of the podcast here. Hypothetically Intentional, Michelle Aubers, Jai D. And that's a wrap for today. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe, follow, like, all those things. Bye. Be you every day.